Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode number 104 of Under Construction. I'm your host, Admiral Ellis, and this week, well, there were a few things we could do this week, but honestly, I've settled down and decided to continue doing what we've been doing up here. As soon as my computer sorts itself out, something's going nuts. I just ended the task of something. I hope it wasn't important. I hope it wasn't Bandicam. No, it wasn't. Okay. So that should spare us a little bit. But you know, my camera was doing a bit of a spin move. There it goes again. I don't have control of my camera at all. That's less than stellar. What else is happening here? What else is going on? I don't know, Tane and then a bunch of other stuff. My computer's just lost its mind. Anyway, here we are. We're in Tane. We're going to continue doing with what we have been doing, mostly. Partly because I am kind of tired, and I have been for this whole... What just happened? For this whole week, of course. This is a very late episode. I had a couple of very late nights at work, and then an otherwise very busy weekend, and I was tempted to skip this episode, but I figured the old adage of better late than never does still apply, so I wanted to get it to you late rather than never. And it is 2 hours that we get to work on it. That said, in the time that I've had, that has been inadequate for recording, because I've had either less than 2 hour blocks where I would be completely alone, or I have just been too tired, or whatever. Too busy, perhaps, to do an actual recording. I have been doing work on the route. That work has been mainly AI work, and we have our first turn freight train that would potentially be a candidate for a session, which could be released with this next version of the route when it gets released. That would take quite a bit of work, but it would be doable. We have that ready to go for the most part. The only issue is, and this is the reason why it would take a lot of work, is that it leaves at 10 o'clock in the morning. The issue with that is that we don't have trains programmed to 10 o'clock in the morning in most cases, and I don't even know if that would work. And also, I would have to reset the scenario to be 10 o'clock in the morning. Now, I don't think that would be overly difficult. It would involve, when we get done with this route, or section, I need to do a send-off package. I need to get some, sessions ready to go. An edit session that we're going to carry with us, of course, but also two others, one being the fully programmed session and one being the fully non-programmed session, which those are relatively easy to do. You just delete all of the drivers and then have the game repopulate drivers, so that you get an empty set of drivers, or one driver in every locomotive, but nobody has any commands. So that's relatively easy to do. So we have the AI set and the non-AI set. And that way people can come on here to play around, or they can come on here and look around, and watch the trains drive up and down the route, as is my favorite thing to do, personally, with Tolbrand. So those are the two options. There's the seeded but not programmed, and the seeded and programmed, or, it would really just be broken down into seeded and programmed, because if it's programmed, obviously it's seeded. You have to have trains before you can have programming. The other alternative would be empty, which would be another one I could release. And I may release all three. Honestly, it would be a relatively minor amount of work. But the thing is, in order to get that 10 o'clock session to work right, which I don't know if I would be able to do, frankly, but in order to get that 10 o'clock session to work right in this version of the map, I would have to program up to 10 o'clock, which means adding some trains and a small staging yard over on the other side of the big bridge. And in addition to that, then going through the session up to 10 o'clock, running it myself and seeing what you encounter during that time. Because it's a relatively small job. It's the Lionhead Turn. The Lionhead Turn begins in the town of, or the city of Jefferson, which is off map to the north, about 15 miles up, and it arrives in Tolbrand, like I said, at about 10 o'clock. It's a Volga Mountains train, so it comes in on the VMR main line. Your first task is to bring it into Olive Yard, pick up one flat car that will be set out for you, and from there you will then proceed up the hill. You will have a VMR consolidation, a second generation, I believe, VMR consolidation. Whatever class that may be, I don't know. Right now it's, or not right now, but it is being portrayed by the Harriman 280s, which are rather nice. And yeah, so you would take that train, you would grab the flat car, then you would head out of Olive and up the grade. And so your task would be to head up to Lionhead, which you'd have some trouble with interfering trains, I would expect, or that would be the goal. And for me as a session designer. So you have to deal with the other trains that you come across on the single track main line. You'd probably have to duck into the siding at least once to allow a train to pass, maybe twice. And, you know, you gotta give that real dispatcher feel, or that real life railroading feel of being stuck in the hole for hours while the dispatcher sends everybody around you. No, but in truth, you would have to go in the hole, probably at Adams, or up here at wherever we are. Can't remember the name of this place. Little Creek, and wait for a train to pass. Whether it would probably be a passenger train, but I don't know. Actually, I do know. Where's my VMR timetable? Let's just, you know. Oh yeah, a lot of these trains, they don't actually have time set out, but probably, so this is a southbound train. Probably, you would have to contend with a handful of trains. Again, more than likely one or two while you're on the way up. And then an additional several while you're up there switching, depending how much time it takes to do that. So, that's mainly what I'm thinking about. If you've got this relatively simple job, which it is relatively simple, you pick up a car in Olive, which, I mean, tangling with the two yard switchers there, which would definitely both be going while you are doing your thing. Tangling with the 2 yard switchers there, and then on top of that, well, sorry, I can't maintain a train of thought right now. You go into Olive, you deal with the yard switchers, you pick up a single car, you head out up the main line, you have to deal with a freight or passenger train, maybe one of each, on your way up to Lionhead, and you get to Lionhead and your duties are as follows. You switch out the Lionhead Colliery, which is, I think, 5 or 6 55-ton hoppers, which you will have brought up empty. You switch out the Lionhead Team Track or Lionhead Goods Track, which would be a single boxcar. You'll have brought up a full boxcar. You switch out the Lionhead Valley Grain Company, or whatever you want to, or whatever the grain company is called. I don't think I named it yet. I had a name, and then it escaped me. Which is in the neighboring valley. So you have to go a ways to do that. And I think that's it. Yeah, so it's those three industries. So you drop off the flat car of wood at the mine, at the colliery. You have an empty hopper, an empty 2-bay hopper that you trade out for a full one at the farm, or at the grain elevator. And you have a full boxcar of goods that you trade with an empty boxcar of goods at the team track. And that's really all you have to do. You don't need to bring up anything for the engines, of course. That would be either in the goods, or, you know, the helper. That would either be in the goods or in the whatchamahoosit? It would already be there, right? You know, you'd get the coal from the mine, or they'd get the coal from the mine, and they'd get the goods in the boxcar, or they'd get whatever small item they need in the boxcar. The other thing I could do is, instead of having a totally prototypical session, because if you think about it, right, this session that we're working on, or working in, is a specific date, and that specific date will repeat over and over again. I could alternately have it be on a slightly different date and just program everything myself. Instead of going through and keeping an eye on what trains interfere, I just decide that trains will interfere. You know, I decide, okay, you're going to have to pull over for one thing, you're going to have to do this, you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to contend with these specific trains on this day. And those trains would probably be, you know, a passenger train and then a mixed freight that's heading down the mountain, and then maybe maybe likewise going up the mountain. I don't really know where everything's going yet, and that's sort of my issue. That's one of my major issues right now, and why I've been working so hard on the Tollbrin Plus map to sort of get an idea for the general area and what things are going to connect to. Earlier today, I had a talk with Matthew Bacon, who is the unofficial chairman of the Tollbrin Reskin project, who was talking about, you know, the viability of the Geiger Mountains Railroad in the era of the route, you know, in the 50s. The Geiger Mountains is fairly extensive at this point in time, and he's not wrong in saying that realistically there would be little reason for such a large narrow gauge railroad to exist at this point in time. Now, in my own headcanon, which of course is the canon because it is what it is, it's my route, the railroad stays afloat partly because of subsidy through the Gilson Eastern and the Volga Mountains Railroad, and partly, it's taking money on all sides here. It does take a lot of money from the Gilson Eastern, though, because the Gilson Eastern has an interest in the Everett Lake Shipping Company, not the mining and navigation company of yore, but the shipping company that operates on Everett Lake, which bought the Everett Lake's corporate image after the railroad itself expired and was taken over by the VMR. So that exists. The thing is, yeah, the thing that the Mason Valley, the thing that the Geiger Mountains Railroad does for them, and the reason they are invested in its continued existence, is that it provides a way to get from Jefferson to the city of Akron, and thus points beyond, without ever touching another railroad. So the Gilson Eastern can drop off, you know, cargo, high priority cargo, whatever it may be, in Mason's Landing. In Mason Valley. You know, it'll get taken up the line by a Geiger, or by a Gilson Eastern train. And then it'll get transferred into a 3-foot gauge boxcar and carried the rest of the way to the city of Macon, and then beyond down onto Everett Lake. And then at Everett Lake, it can get put onto a either a car float, which would be a long way for a car float to go, or into just a, onto a barge or, other shipping method, other boat, which would then be sent up the canal and over to Akron. Which, yeah, the canal is actually a fairly big deal at this point. Still, it is akin to the Erie Canal in real life, where because of where it is, and because of its length, and because of its age, it has persevered as a waterway because of how important it is. Now, the other things that connected to it no longer exist. There's the Wakefield Gap Portage was one of them, or rather, the most important one. And using that, you could actually get a barge, I hesitate to call it a ship, but a tugboat and barge, from Mason Valley and the ocean thereon, up the river, through Mason, from Mason's Landing, up the river, through Mason Valley, continuing up the rivers, and then over the Wakefield Gap Portage. And from there, you could then continue through a couple of rivers and into Everett Lake. And then from there, you would just meet up with the barge canal I previously mentioned, the Everett Lakes Canal, or, well, the Mercer Shippings Canal originally. So that is the big deal there, and that's part of the reason why the Geiger Mountains continues to exist. But the Geiger Mountains also does have access to part of the Columbia Reserves, which is a huge coal deposit. It has access to a number of other minerals. They're in some of the richest areas in the North Volga Mountains, which are generally fairly sparse resource-wise. So they're in a good spot. And they also have significant timber supplies and stuff like that. They have a number of weird, tangled, dead-end tracks because of the, well, we'll run to a mine over here, and then we'll run to a mine over here, and also they purchased a significant portion of the VMR's old right-of-way when they abandoned it to use the Doe Cliff Bridge instead. So, yeah. They're also in a good spot in that respect. So, as far as 3-foot gauge railroads go, they are, I wouldn't say they're very wealthy, but they are well endowed. They have a lot going on right now. Yeah, a lot of their money goes directly to upkeep, but, you can only have so much to complain about. They're still existing. And like I said, it is a lot of the Gilson Eastern money that's keeping them afloat, because that is the Gilson Eastern's ticket west, or east rather. No, this is going to be like a work area, so I'm going to leave that open. Actually, I should put in a little spur here, huh? Oh, I'm at the other end. I thought I was on this side of the bridge. So, yeah. And I'm going to need to justify that stuff, but a lot of the stuff will need justifying. It is not in any way, shape, or form a prototype route. So I need to sit down and think about what I can do and what I can't do. I spent a lot of time brainstorming the Everett Lake. And I've been hung up working on the Tolbrin Plus map because I've been worried about putting highways in places where they would immediately be outmoding the railroads that are there. I don't want to show a highway on the map and then make somebody question the existence of a railroad that passes mostly the same route, but also has a high frequency. Because if they're competing, you would see the carloads and the volumes on the railroad start to wane. Because, frankly, the railroad can't compete very much. We all know that. So, a lot of this stuff, I'm trying to make it so that the interstate network and the highway network on the Tolbrin Peninsula due to the constraints of a number of things, including terrain, but especially terrain, is inconvenient, but not poorly designed. You know, I want to make sure that it looks like realistically somebody would build this. Somebody would build this route. Somebody would build this interstate network. But at the same time, that the trains still have a decent shot. The miraculous thing about Tolbrand, really, is at this point in time they haven't lost any major railroads, except for, like I said, Sayre Pass, and a couple of failed experiments. We're not really in the days of abandonment yet, we are just in the beginning of the end for the railroad at this point in time. So, you know, even if there is an interstate in place, you could see that, or you could, you know, hypothesize that because it hasn't been there very long, it hasn't had the chance to shutter the railroad with its very existence. But nonetheless, I'm trying to make a lot of these areas fairly remote. One of the remote areas that will be getting a highway, or would be if I were to build it, which I'm not, is Doberman, the home of the Doberman Mining Museum, as oft talked about now. So, my goal for today, I had a few goals for today, honestly, and none of them are what I'm doing right now. But, really, I need to do more down here to get ready to move up in that direction. So, you know, I want to be able to put grass all the way, you know, basically as far as we can. With this much work today, I want to get as far as we possibly can, you know, so that we're leaving ourselves some of the other things to do on a day where I'm not feeling so addled and not feeling so exhausted, and maybe on an actual Thursday for once. This Thursday I am going to Boston, so I don't know the viability of me making that episode, but, you know, on the correct date, but I will do my best. It's a non-zero possibility that this episode will come out on Thursday. So, fingers crossed that this just gets out in time. I don't expect any comments on the next one because I won't be giving people enough time to leave them. Well, speaking of comments on this one, Dean says, the queued list thing does work in 19, and then in parentheses he amends that with, I think I haven't experimented with it yet. So, what that means to me is, he doesn't know if it works, and he's saying that to give me hope. Dean, I appreciate that, but maybe tell me when you know for sure. Because, yeah. I mean, I could always boot it up and figure it out, but I need to install it first. You think about it, right? Installing games used to just be like, oh, let me install this. Now it's like, oh, let me install this. It used to be so simple. Now games are just so big. Everything's so huge and weighted down. You know, and things have awful load times these days. It's honestly kind of amazing to me how far we've come, and then how far we've fallen. Things used to be so user-friendly, and they used to work. They used to just work. They didn't have a lot of features, but they did just work. You know, and as we start asking for and getting more and more intricate features, then things start to fall down. That's when things get troublesome. You know, I don't necessarily blame the game developers and the coders for making a game that is less than perfect in terms of optimization, if it is a very interesting and intricate game. I mean, GTA comes to mind. The load times in GTA are frankly absurd, and the game is worth it for the most part. It definitely has its issues, and it definitely drives me up a friggin' wall sometimes, and it just makes me, you know, oftentimes I don't even feel like booting it up, but when you do boot it up and you just go and you get immersed in that world, it's entertaining, it's fun, it's, you know, there's so much to do and so much to see, and so what's wrong with taking the back streets? Yeah, it's one of the games that I can easily excuse that sort of thing in. Because, honestly, what? You're going to fault them for that? How would they have made that better? You're loading in this massive, massive world, relatively speaking, for a game. I mean, sure, it's no Tollbrint, but... It's a good question. How big is the GTA map? I don't actually know. I know it's pretty big. It's got a lot going on, too. That's the thing. It's dense. It's not real scale by any means, because there are too few houses for the number of businesses and stuff like that. The airport dominates in a city that realistically wouldn't be able to support a population that needs it. It's a relatively small world if you're going off of real world terms, but if you're going off of video game terms, that's a huge, huge world. For a game without procedural generation, of course. Naturally, you can't compare the mapping, the hand-tailored, hand-built mapping in a game like GTA with the procedural generation of something like Minecraft or, God, Elite Dangerous or something like that, where it just goes on and on to the point where even if you get everybody in there looking everywhere at every hour of the day forever, you will not, you will scarcely cover anything. Maybe not drop the forever part, because forever, you'll eventually find everything, but that's the thing. So many games that are procedural, have that immense terrain, world-size leg up on games that aren't, and it does make me want more of that, but at the same time, a hand-tailored world is really, really nice. Because not only then do the developers know where everything is, they can custom build you experiences in that world. And other people can too. So, yeah. I mean, I groused a while back about what is the best way to use Stargates in Minecraft. And I don't think any existing single mod, has cracked the code of what would do well with that. And so, I have my opinions. I'm no coder, unfortunately. Could I figure it out? Yeah, probably. With some tutorials and with some trial and error and effort, I suppose. And borrowing some code off of some other modders. But, that's, that's the kind of thing where I would just love to see it. I'm not about to get my hands dirty. Not because it's below me, but because I don't have enough time. Things get brought up from time to time of what games should I bring back. And there are so many games that I want to bring back. Just earlier today I went, I wish I had time to play more Factorio. There was something that I saw that really made me want to play. Because plenty has changed. Factorio is one of those games where it never stops. The devs are some of the most dedicated people I've ever seen for a game. Maybe, I would say second only to Mojang and them, but even then, I mean, they get bugs fixed the same day. Like, they have turned game design from an art, like, straight into a science. They take those bug reports and they turn them right around. So, yeah, needless to say, I am forever impressed. This is the real forever. With the Factorio devs on the way they operate. And I wish every developer was like that, although I understand why most aren't. I can't imagine their work-life balance is anything healthy, but then again, neither is any Factorio players. That's the other reason I won't go back to Factorio. I kind of like having a life. I don't really have a life. That's a joke. But, I like having free time sometimes to do something that isn't work on Tollbrint. Speaking of which, I owe somebody some voice acting lines. I need to sit down and take care of those when I have the chance. Unfortunately, it's not for the Iron Horseman Chronicles. But honestly, if any of you are doing a sort of project where you could use a Kurt or a Benjamin or a Johnson, I suppose, or a Harry or an Ivan or anybody in that range, on that scale, you feel free to let me know, because I can pull a lot of accents just out of nowhere. Unfortunately, I'm not going to do it on the spot. I know some of you are expecting something to appear, but, you know, there are a couple of accents that I can slip into and out of pretty quickly, like at the drop of a hat or something. And there are others that it really takes time for me to get into. I mean, Ivan is easy. He is simple. To get the verbiage right is sometimes tricky. To get words put in the order that you want. That is another problem that is usually resolved at script level. Sometimes takes more than one take with Ivan. Not so much with others. But the problem is not with me, it is with script that I am not reading. And so, you know, when you're doing that kind of voice, the words, you know, you'll trip over word order that would otherwise not give you a problem. And that's something to consider when you're writing a character, not just, you know, how they speak in terms of accent, but how they speak in terms of actual wordage. You know, what is their word choice? How big is their vocabulary? You know, not just the V's instead of W's, but the misplacement of certain things, or the calling this, that, or, you know, whatever. We have gone to pains sometimes in the Iron Horseman Chronicles to make sure that the lines sound authentic. The characters are not just a means to an end. You know, they're not just plot devices. They are characters. They are, you know, in effect, people on the page. And so, you know, if Sally and Sam wanted to say the same thing to the same person, they would not use the same words. And that's something that you need to, you know, pay attention to. You know, Sam, of course, being, you know, for comparison, Sam, of course, being very direct, very blunt at times, you know, and sometimes very harsh, particularly if she feels like there's a reason for it. Sally can also be blunt, but in a different way. She won't be forceful to you, but she will just say things at you that might make you feel a little bit lesser. That, you know, that might be a little bit rude, but she doesn't know it. You know, whereas Sam is saying pointed things as a means to an end, Sally is saying pointed things because that's all she knows how to say. And, you know, once again, they'll be very different in sort of shape and size and type and scope in terms of what's being said. Okay, so yeah. I quite like this being as open as it is, and I might leave it like that to an extent. Naturally, we have this spread out here, and I probably want some swampy looking stuff over here, or at least really grassy looking stuff. So I want to make sure that I don't tree over that. Yeah. I might even push this out here. Let's look at how this looks really quick. See, I'm thinking like, you know, if I push this out to the point where it's very clear that the railroad is, you know, holding this back on both sides. Not that that looks any good, but yeah, it's where we have like a brackish looking pond over here. Yeah, that's not what I want at all. I think I'm committed to this though now. What I just started doing. The other thing I need is that to continue over here so that the embankment is the only thing left standing. on this side. Again, to make it very clear that the railroad is the thing standing in the way of this. And also to make it clear that, yes, this area was pretty marshy before they bit the bullet and put the railroad through it. Yeah. Okay, now we need to raise this land. Sometimes with a double track, I just lay a track down in the middle and then bring it up to that, but I don't think that's necessary here. Yeah, I'm wondering what this looks like, what we can name it after. Something. Oh. Masquerade Lake. Yeah. Or Masquerade Marsh. That works too. Anyway, let's finish up with these, this here. So we can now do this area, or at least a good portion of it. Oh, let's go back down here because that's right. This is where I was. I mean, I apologize if this is boring. It does have to get done. And like I said, I am pretty darn tired. I would kind of like to be in bed. And it's not even late in the evening. So, you know, I'm here doing what I will. Aside from the Lionhead turn, the other things I've been working on that have been fairly noteworthy are the branch line passenger train now goes back and forth twice. I know that's, woo, it goes back and forth twice, how amazing. But that was a pretty big step because it means that the back and forth is now repeatable. So I can actually have it. I mean, I might even be able to put it into like a subroutine where it goes there, it waits for something, it, you know, sits in the station for, you know, it goes there, it pulls in, it runs around its train, you know, and turns the engine around, and then goes back the other way and does the similar thing. You know, right now, it pulls into Mason's Landing at the very beginning of the session, or it backs into the station, it's waiting right in front of the station. It backs into the station, it waits until the train comes in, it loads up on passengers, and then it leaves, goes up to Mason Valley, then leaves the train at the station, goes and turns the engine, gets back in the other end of the train, waits a few minutes, and then leaves again, and goes back to Mason Valley, or Mason, yeah, sorry. It goes back to Mason's Landing after that. So that's, you know, that's the kind of thing I'm thinking about, the kind of thing I'm looking at, going, this, you know, this is a good loop. You know, I don't necessarily trust that it's something that should be looped because of the sort of finickiness involved with it. You know, there's a lot of things that may be changing around it. Certain things I need to give it waits for, you know, wait for a trigger in this situation, or just wait until time in this situation. You know, if it's waiting for time, then I can't use repeating because I can't have it waiting for the same time twice. So I have to have it wait for an amount of time, and that might throw off some scheduling. So, you know, there are issues, there are pros and cons with both. Of course, the obvious pro being, if it's a repeatable schedule, I have to do so much less programming. It saves me so much time and so much effort. But I want it to work right. And that's why I've been hesitant with a lot of these programming things, because I want it to work right the first time. I don't want to spend time doing something sometimes even as a proof of concept. If I'm doing a proof of concept, I'd want it to be the beginning of an operation. The proof of concept to get a train to switch stuff out properly was down on the Olive Branch, and that works pretty well. It takes a few hours to do. I don't know how it compares to a human operator doing that same job, but I assume it takes a portion longer. I don't know how long that portion is. It might be quite significant. But there's also the fact that, I mean, a veteran player would definitely be able to do it much quicker. Because with the unloading, you have to only have the cars that you plan to unload coupled to your engine when you go and unload at a multiple industry, or load even. Or really any industry. You don't want to have a bunch of ancillary cars tied to the train, because the train will try to put them through the industry, and the industry may try to load product or unload product from those cars. The loading is the bigger problem versus the unloading. The unloading wouldn't happen that much. But when you have that in a multiple industry, the issue is that if the clearances are fairly tight, the AI will still try to run every single car over that multiple industry. So you want as few as you can get. And typically that would be just the engine and then just the cars you're unloading or loading. So that's why I figure that the AI switching the olive branch takes a heck of a lot longer than the human doing it, because the human can do it using other cars as idlers and pull part of the way in instead of all the way in, and you aren't beholden to track marks, and you can do certain moves. Now, I don't know if the thing that I've set up is perfect. I doubt it. There are probably several maneuvers that I could do in fewer moves and less time. But right now, the advantage that the AI has is it knows what it's going to do, and it's going to do the exact same thing every time. If you get someone who's unfamiliar in there to try and do that yard job, or do that branch line job, they may have a lot of trouble. The track arrangement out there is complicated in a way, but also fairly limiting, and the amount of tasks is relatively high. I mean, once you finally get out there, and it's not like it's a long journey, but it's kind of an annoying one. You have to wait for your train to be put together, and then you need to actually get out of the yard and not hit anybody on the way out. Traveling all the way out to the end of the olive branch is fairly trivial, but then you get out there and you have to switch out 2 cars of goods. You have to switch out a tank car of oil, of diesel fuel. Then you have to load up your 5 empty steak cars. 5 or 6, I think it is. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but with the track arrangement, it really does throw a wrench in the whole thing. You don't have enough room to pull too many cars past the end of the passing siding. The 2 sidings that are there are not oriented in a way that it gives you very much help. They're just storage tracks and nothing more. And I think one of them even has junk stored on it. So that one really doesn't help. The goods siding and the oil siding or the diesel siding are oriented in opposite directions. So you need to run around your stuff at least once, if not more than once. You also need to take your passenger car, your coal hopper and one of the other diesel cars or something like that, and get them at the other end of your train. And you need to get the caboose on the other end of your train so you can head back the other way, too. So there's a lot of maneuvers that need to happen there, and yeah, the shunting procedure for that takes quite a length of time as done by the AI. It really does. It takes a significant portion of time, like a good couple of hours. I don't know how long it would take a person. I haven't seen a person do it. But that is, of course, one of the perhaps easier things that I could release for the old Tollbrand version is the Olive Branch Local. Now that I know what would be going on, not that anybody will really interrupt you, because hell, you're out there on the Olive Branch. There is literally nobody to get in your way, and there shouldn't be at any point. If I really get the desire to make a session for Tollbrand that isn't the Lionhead turn, doing the Olive Branch is definitely something that I would like to attempt. Like an actual session where you control the train. The coolest thing would be how long does it take you to complete it without speed limits and with, finishing with all the cars in their designated positions. That is, the boxcar and coal car, boxcar and hopper are in the middle where they belong. The goods, the diesel in two places, they've both been switched out. The log cars are loaded up as good as you're going to get them. And then you get back to Olive Yard as quickly as you can. Now, one of the issues that I've been having is the fact that the two switchers in Olive tend to get on each other's nerves. They tend to really get up in each other's business, and that's a problem, because I don't want there to be major conflict between those two. But they are sharing this yard, and I can't just have one work from one end and one work from the other. That wouldn't really help me any. So, I've had to sit down and think about what do I do in order to make this thing viable, and frankly, right now, it's been mostly okay. Nobody's crashed into anybody else, but sometimes the switcher that's supposed to be doing the transload facility, which is one of the other new things that I've had a fairly significant breakthrough on. When he tries to do the transload facility and grab the other cars, it's kind of in the middle of the normal Olive switcher's business. Like, the Olive switcher is trying to do something. And I now have had an issue where they didn't collide, but they got into a sort of deadlock situation, and I may be looking into loosening up the commands so that the train can find its own way around, or buckling down with the commands to enforce a very specific, if possibly kind of difficult pattern to get them to follow. The issue is, of course, that because these are subroutines, or because that one is a subroutine, it does have to do the exact same thing 8 times. 5 times. And that presents a problem if it doesn't work in one case. Because I can't just have it do something for one case unless that's the beginning of the beginning. The beginning of the first case or the end of the last case. Either way, that won't really help us. Right now, it does in 5 reps, in 5 repeats, basically. It takes off 8 cars from the intermodal train that comes in, and by intermodal I mean piggybacks, brings them across the way to the intermodal yard, stuffs them somewhere, takes out the 8 cars that are in the intermodal yard, that's 2 in each track, stuffs them somewhere, and then takes 2 cars at a time from the first set of cars that were stored, and puts them in where the empties it just took out were. And that works fairly well. It's, again, quite time-consuming, because you have to do each of those moves with the 2 cars individually. You take 2 off of your stored set of cars, you bring them over to one of the tracks, you pull them in, and you empty them out. And then you leave them there. And then you go back, you grab 2 more, and you repeat. It would be a lot quicker if you could grab all 8, pull in, unload 2, leave them there, pull out with the remaining 6, pull into the next track, pull in, all the way in, unload 2, pull out again with the remaining 4 after leaving those 2 there. That sort of thing. I think that's, that would be a lot quicker, but it would not be something that the AI can handle. The AI would end up driving through the buffers, trying to unload all of the cars that it has. So, yeah, it wouldn't work, unfortunately. If we do this right, we are going to make it up to basically this line today. And that is stupendous. Yeah, see, this needs to be done. Like I keep saying, this is the last terrain work to do in this section, I believe. And other than that, grumble, grumble. Okay. I'm just grumbling at the future of my duties here. It's particularly biting when you do something and you think you've done it well even, and then Trains crashes and you lose it. Lately that's not been a problem because Tane has done a very good job of auto-saving for me. But I think I goofed and ruined my own progress last time. Or wait, when I lost that. There's non-zero chance that it wasn't Tane's fault. It was very much my own that lost that stuff, which I've done that before. I've done that not just in Tane, but I've done that at work too. Didn't really think that when AutoCAD wanted to install updates after it had just crashed, that it wouldn't let me recover my drawings after that, but apparently that is something that it does. So I couldn't get in there and recover my drawings, which I was fully expecting to do. I know, kill me. Kill me because I wasn't saving anyway, but I had it hanging up on me, and instead of waiting for it to finish, I decided that it would be quicker if I killed it. You know, I mean, who knows how long it would have been stuck, but it would be quicker if I killed it and then just recovered my drawings and redid whatever I did and tried again. And so I decided to do that, and that was my mistake, because it didn't let me recover my drawings, and thus I had to do a couple of hours of work over again. Which is really a kick in the teeth, because it's my own fault, and we bill for time to a project. You know, we say that, okay, we're you know, I worked on this for 4 hours, so whatever. And so when you work on it for 4 hours and only get 2 hours of work done, you've either wasted the client's money if you do bill for it, or if the boss says, don't bill for that, you didn't get anything done in those 2 hours, then you suck it up and eat that time, because that's your fault. You were supposed to get something done. So, you know, generally it's the former. It's, you know, mistakes will be made. There's contingency built into any prices that people are going to make mistakes and things are going to have to be redone. But if a project is particularly low on budget and we don't want to go over budget, sometimes we do have to eat a little bit of time. You know, nothing that would bring us below 40 hours, of course, because technically salaried. But, you know, enough that, you know, enough to curtail your nice fat overtime check if you're just charging overtime to a job and getting nothing done. So, you know, that kind of thing. Uh-oh, what is this? Alright, so, yeah. If I can get Bristol Curve done, it will be a damn miracle. There are bits that I want to leave open. This is one of them. And I don't think I'll go past here. Well, no, I do. Let me get up to this line. That's what I'll do. I'll get up to this line, and that'll be that. And we'll finish up the little detail there a little bit later. And then let's see. So that would mean we are way ahead on the VMR. Or we're up to this line exactly. So we're pretty far ahead on the VMR, is what that would mean. And not, you know, we're missing some chunks here, but mostly we're, you know, whatever. Anyway, Krebi says, it's been a while since I commented here, and some stuff has changed. The only thing I changed, my YouTube name from Highball Productions to Krebi, as well as my profile pic. I'm in the TIHC Discord, hello, and I'm planning to make routes soon, so I can DM you if you're interested. Y-O-U-R interested. Should be U-R, or Y-O-U-R-E. Which, just to, you know, I'm going to stop you right there. I absolutely am interested. If you're in the Discord, you can certainly talk in the Trains route building chat about them, or whatever, you know, whenever you decide to start work on them, and naturally, I would be honored to review one at some point in the future. I got a very positive response from Matthew to bring him up again. On my review to his route, even though it was not exactly a glamorous review. And I think that reflects fairly well on my ability to not be so hard on people, even when there are flaws. Nobody's route is without flaw anyway. But, it can certainly seem mean sometimes to tear somebody's creation to shreds, or feel like you're tearing somebody's creation to shreds by giving them poor scores on things that, maybe they just didn't do well. It feels mean. I would be a terrible teacher, I guess. Or a terrible grader, at least. But at the end of the day, as long as you are kind about it, as long as you are, doing it in a manner of constructive criticism and not being mean, being actually mean, that's what matters. So, that's the takeaway here. That's your lesson of the day. What is this? Oh, okay. So, okay, where are we? Where are we? This is the breakout moment, We're about to go from here to here. That's almost 2 miles. It's like 1 3/4 of a mile, because these tiles are about half a mile to a side, if I recall correctly. And cover almost this whole area, just making sure we've got everything along the side of Little Creek here, I believe. Yeah, we do. We've got almost everything aside from the stuff on the side of the highway, and that's important. Let's take care of one side of it now, at least. I'm getting tired of doing this. I might move on to something else very briefly. And as much as I wanted to be programming, see, I have a little document here. As much as I wanted to be programming, because I have a few things that I need to change, not really appropriate for the show. That's the kind of stuff I'm doing in the off time. Priority 1 is getting the route done. Priority distant second is doing all the automation and stuff. Although what I can do, hypothetically, is look at some of the industries. If we can take a little break from doing this and do that instead. So, yeah, let's do up to there. We'll stop doing that for now. What we will do is, let's see, I said we're going to go up to here. Let's just get the grass up to here. Because we'll do a half an hour of looking at some industries and another half an hour of planting trees, I guess. Industries are a tricky thing, and they're the kind of thing where sometimes I just have to sit back and think a lot. And that's why it's not ideal for me to do them on the show, but it is part of the route. So it is, something that you can get away with, or something that I can get away with, or justify in one of these episodes. Krebi also says, my question for you is, what is Shrek's hut? Every time you zoom out, I always see it marked in the swamp area. Well, it's Shrek's hut, of course. Now, of course, I couldn't get something that really looks like Shrek's hut, but somebody a long time ago said, hey, you should put a Shrek's hut in the swamp. Wouldn't that be funny? What are you doing in my swamp? And so, give me a second, and it should load in. It's right there. Just let all this grass load in. Maybe if I face this way. Less stuff to load in this direction. You're gonna be disappointed. There it is. This is Shrek's hut. It's a little outhouse, just in the middle of the swamp. So, mystery solved. I hope you're not too disappointed. I don't know what you expected, honestly. Anyway, back to up here. Let's just again finish this area. I need the thicker hedges. Oh, you know what? There's a lot more to do in the way of hedge over here. So let's just do our best to get the area alongside these tracks done, just so we can have as much area as possible that meets standard for putting trees on. Oh, and I'm missing the side of the bank down here. God damn it. See, now I'm severely cutting into the amount of tree work I can actually do because I missed a relatively small spot. And it's either go look at industries for half an hour or see if I can finish this, which will then give me a lot more room to add stuff. See, all along the banks of these rivers here, I'm missing grass. So I really can only go up to here. Which, I mean, I can stay on this side of the river and whatever. I can't touch the highway, though, because I don't have grass along that. So, it's not something that we'll be able to necessarily do tons of. So, in lieu of doing 30 more minutes of that, because I'm honestly going to lose my mind, let's go look over here instead. One of the things that I'm having trouble with regards to AI, is the star of the show right now is the Olive Branch local. Not that there's any other Olive Branch train. But, honestly, it should be a different one. Because these are 3-foot gauge cars. They're EBT, of course they are. This area has so many industries that it should be a no-brainer to have this happen. Now, I don't have boxcars that can use certain products yet. And that's a problem. Where's my industry link? I thought I had an industry link over here. I thought I had put down a bunch of industry links as a, hey, I'm going to need this sort of thing. Did I not? I could have sworn I did. Yeah, because there's got to be one over here, right? Right there. Yeah. Okay, I knew that was there. Weird. Anyway, there's another one. So, yeah, we should have a just fine number of things coming through here. Just excellent amount of traffic. Where did I put this industry link? There's got to be one around here somewhere. There's no way I didn't. There's no way I didn't. Maybe I stuck it under something. Hold on, let's do this. Turn off the gradients. Let's see, what is it? Does it show up as something? No. Terrain objects. I don't know then. I guess it doesn't show up as anything. You know what, of course it makes sense it doesn't show up as anything because it's totally invisible during regular gameplay. So, I need to go over to Industries and Balance, this spreadsheet here. And I need to start looking at the stuff that's in this area. Now, obviously we have the log transfer. That's pretty straightforward. The goods transfer, also pretty straightforward. I'm not sure if I want to have it transfer things one way or the other. I'm assuming, I'm thinking, well, I mean, a little bit of both. But right now it's just goods. It could be anything else, realistically. Anything else that we can fit in one of those boxcars. So the other things we have, I mean, we could have this. This looks like an industry almost. And in fact, I need to I need to get rid of these. I need to put something else in their place. Like an invisible signal or something. How far do these go underneath the thing? Alright, yeah, it's fine. I need an invisible signal. Nope, can't answer that. I definitely have invisible signals in this yard. They are over here on the turntable. Oh, no, they're not. I guess I don't have invisible signals in this yard. I had invisible signals. They were probably giving me trouble, so I took them off of that turntable, because the turntable doesn't really need them. No! Okay. Alright, there we go. Let me just pull this up a little bit farther, actually. Not that they're going to go much past these track marks, but it is what it is. So, we've got those there. This could serve as an industry, but I don't think it's going to. I think it's just going to serve as storage. We have this guy who takes sheep. I will make sure he takes sheep. Oops. Yeah, let's examine that spline. Yeah, so we haven't set up these queues or anything for what we want it to do. We just know that they have to carry certain things. Dyes or whatever. This is obviously going to be coal, but I think I said something to the effect of we're not going to have coal being dropped off here. But I'm pretty sure we are. I need to add a multiple industry for that, and then we have the actual mill, which the multiple industry sticks out, so I can click on it, but I can't even do that. It would be kind of cool if multiple industries had just like a super tall hitbox or something. Either way, needless to say, we haven't done that one yet either. So, and then there's all the industries over here, which some of them I think we know now. I'm just not sure if we've set it going. I don't want the crane. Iron drop off. This is the sort of thing where, yeah, hypothetically we could know what we're doing. And we could have it programmed. What the hell keeps going on with my phone? We're just not there yet. I need to know where I'm going with this before I proceed too much further. This is probably the easiest one to do. This might be the second easiest one to do because it's just a goods warehouse, or it's just a, no, not a goods warehouse, but it's just a generic factory building. It just makes stuff. This is the difficult one because this is the place that we don't have, anything for. It would just produce general goods. There's nothing I can do with that otherwise. This guy, we know what it's going to take. It's going to take these two things. Some of the stuff, we're fairly confident on what it's going to take. For example, 10 carloads of coal. It's probably going to take more than that. I bet you we'll switch this thing out, twice or 3 times or 4 times or, however many times a day. I could picture that this guy is just unloading and unloading and unloading and unloading and unloading constantly throughout the day. This guy also is just going to produce goods. Twin River Milling, what is it going to take in? It's going to take in something off of the railroad, or off of the narrow gauge, not something off of the standard gauge, but what that is, we don't know yet. And this is another one with these DES items that I don't have a way to load into a car. Because a lot of them, they just don't have, some of the stuff, yeah, fairly normal, general goods, of course, and then some of these steel coils, yeah, we have cars that we can put them in, but this barely makes sense. this is really more of a warehouse than a factory, first off, and second off, we would be limited so much. It almost feels like, why bother using that? Why not just use a multiple industry? So those are my issues right now. I really need to start thinking about what do these take on a daily basis, and what can I give them? And a lot of them, like I said, I'm hesitant on, because a lot of them are using these DES commodities that I don't have cars for. Now, if you're out there listening to this and you want to take that leap and see if you can reskin me a boxcar and add those quantities to it, by all means do it. You will have my blessing, and I will, I don't know, but I'll be forever in your debt. That's for sure. So I would deeply appreciate something like that. It's the kind of thing where that's what I'm hoping for. I don't know how to do it, and I scarcely have time to figure it out. But if somebody out there who's more interested in figuring it out wants to do it, then go ahead. And it's not like, it's not, what's the word? Stuff that I'm thinking, oh well, I wish I had this. Like I do that about auto numbering sometimes. People are reskinning engines for me, like Matthew. People are reskinning engines for me, and some of them have auto numbering and some of them don't. And the ones that do, I'm happy that do, and the ones that don't, I'm okay they don't. And I mean, overall, it's not really a big deal if something does or doesn't. I've been numbering the engines based on I've been numbering them inside their UI, and not necessarily out there, and on the side of the engine. So that's not the biggest deal to me. What is a big deal for me is being able to haul all these unique commodities to make the boxcars different. To make it so that it does actually matter which one you drop off, instead of just a generic general goods. And it also means I can send it to places other than the big goods distribution facilities in Gilson City, and I suppose there'd be one in Jefferson as well. But, these warehouse complexes, those are the kind of thing where we need that. I can't answer that. Hold on a moment. What the hell's going on? Alright, so we also are having a slight problem with our rails here now. That's the issue when you start moving this stuff around. You have it real good, and then suddenly you don't. Oh, wait. No, I know what happened. I need to straighten this. That's better. Did something similar happen at this end? I mean, it doesn't really matter so much if it's happening at this end, but nice to pay attention to. Alright, so that's our last multiple industry, I think. We're also neglecting the industries up here. Now, these are, again, I should really just start throwing down boxcars and hoppers and whatever to represent the commodities, because then I can assemble them into something. This is a tooling place. So they would take probably some sort of small metal stuff, metal stock, which I could probably do with something like this. So I'm pretty sure there's a metal stock option in here. And see, what I can do is then I can translate this onto the document and translate the document back out to here. Flat stock. I don't actually want flat stock. The thing with flat stock is it's nice, I guess, for what it is, but it is way too big for a tooling company. They wouldn't necessarily want something. They'd want, like, bar stock, maybe. So let's see if we have bar stock on this car or if we have to use a different one. I think we have to use a different one. So we have railroad ties, but that's not what I want. So let's see. I can actually look through my list of things here and see if I can find something that belongs at this place. Now, I'm looking for, again, a kind of iron, iron bars or something, these things that you would put together into, these things that you would make tooling out of. Round stock. What uses round stock? Oh, the mill gondola. That makes sense. Let's see, which one am I using here? Oh, the 50. Yeah, these guys. Madison wanted to know if I wanted Wendy's. That's what it was. I really appreciate you, Madison, but not right now. Steel coils, galvanized steel coils, I-beams, flat stock, round stock. Well, see, let's look at the round stock. Whoops. It isn't quite what I want because I think it's too big. But it almost makes more sense from a tool point of view, especially if you're making something like drill bits. Yeah, so the round stock makes sense. I'll say why not, we'll do the round stock. So that's one. It's another kind of commodity that I don't think you've used before. Maschinenfabrik. So this is another one. Making presumably larger machines. Machine maker. This is a milling company. I think I'm just going to have it be a log, a log car or a car of lumber. So let's grab. I think I've been using the PRR 50 foot. Sorry, 50. No. Okay, what is my preferred unit for lumber? So silver ingots is a thing. Lumber. What is my preferred rail car? I can use the PFE reefer, allegedly. I could also use the UP flat car or the flat car my essence and main Q, but the 50-foot flat car PRR is the one that I'm looking for, so it's 50-foot flat car PRR. Okay, so there's no space. That's what the difference was. I would kind of want to put in more than one load, but it is what it is. Okay, so we've got that. Maschinenfabrik. What do you need? What do you need? I mean, you probably need more than one kind of commodity, but what would be your number one? Making machinery, you're making tools, you're making, whatever. It's going to be some kind of metal, I would think. Steel slab hot. Now, let me look real quick at this again, and I think it's once again going to be something in here. Yeah, hot steel slab. How about it? Yeah, maybe flat stock is the right thing to do here. Although steel rods, aluminum ingots. What is... Having this place take aluminum certainly seems interesting, but I just don't feel like it would be widespread enough. That's my thought anyway. So I may also have this place take flat stock. Let's see. How do you put bits of aluminum together anyway? Galvanized steel coil, diesel fuel, blah, 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 blah. I lost flat stock. Yeah, so that is actually not the preferred thing. The preferred is flat car my assets in the main queue, PLS. Even though the mill gondola carries more of them. So, the thing is, I could actually have 2 flat cars of these guys, or just 1 gondola. But I probably want flat cars for this, honestly. There we go. And so we're going to put flat stock on this. Okay, so we've got, coming up here, we've got 4 carloads. We figured out what they are now, so that's an important step. We figured out these guys. We've figured out, well, we know that this is going to be this, so that's going to come through. Although that can't come through until later in the day, because it can't be sitting in the yard overnight, because it's an ice reefer. So, yeah. This is fine. This is a milling company. And this... Again, I guess I'm just going to go with general goods coming out of the place. That's just a generic factory, so it's going to have general goods coming out of it. But I would like it to be something more specific. If it was a DES thing, I might be a little bit, happier to do so. If you guys have a boxcar that has special commodities in it, feel free to say so. Aluminum billets. First of all, I don't know what a billet is. Second of all, what car takes those? Oh, the 50-foot PR flat car does again. Yeah, if you have a commodity that you want to see get shipped around, absolutely voice your opinion. Because if you want to see it, I want to see it. I would be excited to. Okay, so this is like a... For whatever reason, I can sort of see through them. But it's aluminum rods, is what it is. Aluminum sheets, half pallet automobile engine, barley, bauxite, beer, a whole million different kinds of coal, pallets of butter, cement. That doesn't belong there. Coal tailings, diesel fuel, engine sand, farm equipment. I mean, we could have it do something weird like that, but I feel like that'd be a bigger assembly plant than that one place. Planes and stones, flat stock, galvanized steel coil, garbage bulk, general auto parts. No. IKEA pallets, I feel like those don't belong here. Kellen slurry, which I want to use somewhere, but not here. Malt. Malt. Just malt. Also something just called mineral. Whatever that is. That's suspicious. This place makes meth. A tank load of paint. What takes that? Oh, this tanker 40-foot SD Warren. That'd be really interesting, actually, if this place literally manufactured tank cars, you know, literally manufactured paint, but this clearly is not a chemical plant. So, I don't think I can do that. Peas. Yeah, makes sense. Potatoes, bagged on pallet. Rails old rusty. Road ballast, round stock. San Marcos product crate. Scrapper Terex. What? What? What is this? What car is this? This is the... Oh no, it's that thing. Hold on. Did I misspell something? No, I didn't. I just did, but I didn't mess it up. This is the scrapper? Scraper? This thing carries so many things, but, like, goddamn. Yeah, okay, that is. Apparently you can carry 7,800 of them. Somehow that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Sheepload, smelter waste, soya beans, stack of special logs, a bunch of steel coil loads, crushed stone, wood chips, zinc ore, zinc sulfate. Yeah, if you guys have another good boxcar product and a car that it goes in that something like this would produce, I mean, say so. Because I'd like to link it to something, but right now it's just going to produce... I mean, I'll up it to 3, because... why not? So it's going to produce some general goods. I mean, I don't know what else to do with it. Now, as for this might be the last big question mark. We can't even do anything with it right now. Now, I don't really know what else you would do with it. Aside from just... You know what? I couldn't tell you. I don't know. What would go into here? We're using this as like a metal sorting facility. So what on earth could we drop off in enough quantity to fill this up that would make sense over here? Because I don't know. You know, it's... This has been vexing me for quite some time, and this is the last... This is the missing piece. Aside from the DES stuff, this is the missing piece. And then we know what needs to go in our train to go here. Which, I mean, real quick, let's just throw that together somewhere out of the way. So that we can have it for future. And I mean, I say out of the way, but for now I'm just going to throw it together in plain view of everything. So that I can move it around. 1, 2, 3... Oh, okay, that's another mill gondola. Okay, I don't know why these aren't What the fudge? Is something wrong with these things? Because that wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if whoever made these managed to break them. No, okay, that was just a fluke. So this is going to be this scrap metal. Which, I mean, we're already bringing in this much scrap metal. So, this part of it is not the worst by far. So this is going to be, you know, these are going to come out empty. That's going to come out full. We're going to have 3 of these. 1, 2, 3. And then this guy, which he's going to come in full. So we'll make sure he is full. He's got flat stock. No. Again, if anybody runs into other cars that have unique loads, again, I need ones with the loads already programmed, but if you find other cars that have unique loads, absolutely let me know. Because that's the kind of thing that I like to see, the kind of thing that I want to see. What is this, by the way? This is like iron pellets or something? Iron pellets. So I assume this is going to be a drop-off and not a pickup. And then you get these guys out of it. But I'm not even certain about that. I don't think we'd get out iron pellets. We just get like this sorted scrap metal. Like this stuff is one kind of scrap, and then this is the other kind of scrap. Maybe some of it can be recycled and some of it can't. And this is like helping us. I mean, part of me would want to just drop coal off over here, but that doesn't make any sense. You know, coking coal or something in order to separate that stuff out. Or, you know, partially melt it down or something. It's just a metal sorting facility. It's not really anything to write home about crazy. I think we need a second one of these. Yeah, so these both have flat stock on it. Oops, wrong thing. Flat stock. I'm glad we're finally doing this one, though. Doing this thing. I almost have it nailed down with everything that needs to come here. You know, I'm trying to think about what would come in the morning. Now, I don't think any of the lumber would, because I've already established that we don't have any lumber left over in the yard there. All the cars of flat stock, though, that I could believe came overnight and has been hanging out in the yard in Tolbrand waiting to come over here. As well as these empty box cars. Okay, let's see. I need a mill gondola with round stock. So let's real quick do this instead to make my life a little bit quicker. Round stock. I need 2 of these. So do that. Copy that over. And I need another one of these. Which, I mean, that's not really rocket surgery. I know how to get to that pretty quick, but time is of the essence. You know, we're past the half-hour mark, and we're not, we haven't done the thing yet. We haven't started placing any trees. Which, I mean, shame on us, right? God forbid I do something that I'm actually enjoying. So we're going to take this down. But this is going to be mostly a train of flat cars and stuff like that. The reason being, there's just, you know, there's almost nothing in the way of box cars here. Although, if you think about it, many of these places should be putting out general goods anyway. It's just not here. You know, so already this train is filling up with scrap metal and iron and some basically pretty heavy stuff. And I think that's everything for the area. Which, on a given morning, so let's take these and put this somewhere. On a given morning, it would be... See, I don't remember where I stuffed the yard train. The actual train that comes in here. I don't remember which track I had it put itself on, so I don't remember where I can safely put this. So for now, let's just sort of stash it over here where it'll be out of the way. And which side is the other? Okay, there we go. Now, in the morning, like I said, I don't think we're going to have these lumber cars. Because the lumber has yet to be produced. The factory is not spooled up yet. There's none left over from yesterday. It all gets sent out at the end of the day. So if we spin this sucker around, for real, couple it on, I'm having trouble because of the dual gauge. Keeps thwarting my attempts to couple these guys together. So, we will definitely have these 4 cars and this car, because these will all have come direct from the steel mill. And these we know are already going to be there, some of which are going to be dropped off. These, of course, we're going to just have. Yeah. Now I just want to put them in a sensible order, which I think will involve turning this completely around. There we go. Couple those guys together. And yeah, this looks like it's getting closer to our train. The only thing that I'm realizing we're missing in this town is an actual goods shed, which I guess this would be it. I mean, I think we'd have to change the track arrangement here slightly, but I guess this would be it. Then again, this would also kind of be it. And in fact, I could probably put a decent facility over here with other warehouses that would make a lot of sense instead of just this one warehouse. Yeah, you know what? That's what this will be. I'll block out this whole area for a warehouse thing. For a minute, let me just throw down some warehouses. If we can find a half-decent one, I would appreciate it. Bananas. Warehouse basic. You know what? This is good. I kind of like this, although I feel like... Oh, it's a DES thing, so I should be able to use it. Let me just make sure. Yep. Warehouse Great Northern DES. I don't know where I got this, but I am happy to have it, because it looks pretty damn nice, if I do say so myself. So, that means we can get a lot of truck and a lot of train going on here. This will be our main goods distribution point. The only issue is getting goods to it is an absolute pain in the neck. So, yeah. A train will have to come over here, pull the empties out of here, stick them over here on the passing siding, and bring the fulls in and put them over there. Now, however many fulls we're going to use, I don't know. But the answer is probably quite a few. Anyway. This is a little tight and awkward, but that's okay. We're really not going to be using that for much anyway. So yeah, this looks like our morning train. If we want to look at, this, car weight, settings. Now I kind of wanted to look at, you know, the control and right click view where you see how much weight is in tow, because I'd want to know how heavy this train is. Anyway, alright, we're good here. Let's go copy paste some trees. Call it a day. Madison's coming home with Wendy's. We're gonna get so fat. I didn't even get to talk about, like, stuff in my life. I normally talk about, stuff that I can be like, oh yeah, content. And there were a couple things that I was like, yes, content. And now I cannot for the life of me remember what they were. When I took that automated bus that I did talk about. I attended a very cool meeting for the future of transit in Rhode Island. And it included a number of some fairly good and some fairly extravagant proposals, ranging from increased bus service to simple stuff like bus lanes, or in more extreme cases, adding bus rapid transit. I just deleted that building. I'm sorry. Give me that building back. Bus rapid transit service, or even up to. We're gonna do this for one moment. Even up to a couple of light rail proposals in east-west and north-south routes near Providence. So, those are the kind of things that make me perk up. It's really nice to see that the state government is interested in doing something, because this is not just something that people threw together because they felt like doing a transit plan. This is something that, the state has specifically asked them to go out and create this proposal. So, this is a fairly big deal. It is the Rhode Island 2040 plan, or something to that effect. And it's got me excited. One of the most important things to me is getting weekend service at TF Green Airport. Not because I myself care about weekend service at TF Green Airport anymore, because I don't live down there. Although the parking is fairly inexpensive compared to Providence. But I can just take the bus these days. But it would be a boon for the airport, which apparently has had some rough times lately in terms of number of passengers and stuff like that. Apparently they've had better days. So it's nice to see a proposal like that, which I feel like is very good, because it exploits a market opportunity that to me is pretty darn apparent. People don't just fly during the week. If you're going to have a train to the airport, you want the train to be available all week long. Weekend. So, that's the kind of thing where I'm thinking about that and going, this is coming out of here being a good idea. On the other hand, I feel like some of the light rail stuff, I'd love it. I sure as hell would love it. It makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. I'm not sure it's a good idea. Certainly not necessarily a financially good idea. But if the volume on those corridors is as high as they say, then having a light rail service may be the best way to, sort of calm that. Because even a bus route, it does lower congestion, but it doesn't lower it by that much. It tends to, bus routes they have a stigma associated with them, which I've talked about at length before. The bus stigma is very, very real, and you do have to account for it in traffic planning, in your forecasting, and in your designs. If you want certain people to ride something, sometimes you just have to say it's not going to be a bus, even if that makes the most cost-effective sense. The issue is, the double-edged part of it is you either go and make your inexpensive bus route and people complain that it's too expensive because nobody's using it, or you make your expensive trolley line and it's too expensive because it's too expensive. The cost difference is significant for building that kind of infrastructure. Because, it should be a pretty no-brainer, I would think, for most of you, knowing that, buses just run on roads. And if you're not going to go full bus rapid transit and upgrade the signals and upgrade the roads with bike lane or bus lanes and stuff like that, if you're not doing that, the cost is a little more than the cost of the equipment and the drivers. Certainly if you have an established bus system, adding a route is really inexpensive. compared to the cost of the system if you can get your hands on more buses. So that's the kind of thing to look at. Whereas even if you have an established trolley system, you probably don't have a huge surplus of vehicles. So of course you would need to buy more vehicles. Same with the buses. And just having them delivered is one thing, because buses you can just drive. But light rail vehicles, you have to have them trucked in one by one. Or if you're lucky and have a rail line, you get them, flat cart in from wherever. But even then, that's no guarantee. There's no guarantee you'll be able to have them flat cart in, even if you have a rail line connection. It depends on who you buy them from. So, getting the equipment is a hassle. But that pales in comparison to the hassle of actually constructing the system between the power lines, the overhead, the actual power to the overhead, so many substations you need, the tracks, of course. I mean, I'm sure you guys were waiting for me to say that, because that's the big ticket item, that's the biggest ticket item, is installing the tracks, finding the right-of-way, buying the right-of-way if need be, from whoever owns it, or eminent domaining it if they refuse to sell or something. It's the kind of thing where there are a lot of pros and cons, and on the face of it, there are really just a lot of monetary cons to trolleys, to the point where they seem like a monetary con. But give that no mind. They do good work for what they are. They have a higher capacity than a similar bus system would, and they don't have the bus stigma associated with them. People want to ride the trolley, no less than they want to ride the train or the subway. Is it an inherent human draw to things that run on tracks? I kind of doubt it. But it is definitely it's almost more of a feeling of permanence. The bus, it just runs on the street. You can use that, with your car. Why would you get in a bus when you can just use your car? That I feel like is something that goes through people's minds subconsciously when they think about taking the bus someplace. And I mean, in a way, it's not invalid. Your car is going to do a better job at timeliness than the bus will, probably. You certainly won't have to share it with anybody you don't want to, for the most part. Even something like Uber, you sit down and you have a quiet ride in the back seat where nobody talks to you. That's a 5-star ride right there, where the driver says nothing. And the only downside is that maybe the Uber costs a little bit more than the bus, or if you don't need a car otherwise, then of course the cost to own a car is pretty high, especially insurance-wise. Car insurance is such a racket. I mean, I say that, but it's really not. It's important. But definitely, it is the kind of thing where you feel like you don't need it until you do, and it is really, really expensive. And car insurance is the barrier to a lot of people owning a car, especially a lot of younger people. When you don't have that much money month to month, you're worried about that expense. Maybe you're on your parents' insurance, but you won't be forever. Probably. Anyway, the whole thing with that, the bus stigma and using a tram to prevent it, I mean, it's nice. We really just need to get people to take the bus. We need to make taking the bus cool. And, that means even with, I was trying to find like a generic homeless guy name, but I don't know one, so I'll just go with Kevin. Even with Kevin, who kind of smells like pee, it's okay to take the bus. That's a campaign slogan right there. It's okay to take the bus. That just, covering up for its own incompetence there. But I mean, to an extent, it's true. We need to sort of get off of that. Of the people that are in the model railroad club, of all people, you'd figure that a model railroad club, being what it is, and thinking about transit, you'd have more people that want to do something like use public transit. You know, lots of people take Amtrak almost out of spite because they're worried about it going away. So you've got to take Amtrak, and instead you get people who are avoiding the bus. You know, the people that have money for those kinds of hobbies, you know, they tend not to take the bus because, of course, they can afford their own car. Why would they take the bus? Well, because it's better for everybody when you take the bus. I mean, not only is it probably less expensive than driving in the long haul, it really depends. It is more environmentally conscious. It, gets cars off the road, so you're not just talking about CO2 going into the air with cars on the road. I mean, just straight traffic. If you're getting congested all the time, think about if 30 or 40 of those cars that are on the road around you are in one bus. Because that's the equivalent. And you can fit even more in a tram, which is why that's, in a light rail vehicle, I suppose. Which is why it's such an appealing option when you really are at the cusp of transit capacity. Now, as far as transit capacity goes, buses really are the lowest, and regular street-running buses, are scraping the bottom of the barrel in terms of number of people you can put through a given area in a given amount of time. But that doesn't mean they're bad. They're certainly better than cars. But at the end of the day, they are the least efficient form of public transportation, perhaps behind like a tramway or something like that, like the Roosevelt Island tramway. I doubt that thing is super efficient, but it does only go over very small areas, so I don't think the numbers, the calculations there are going to do anybody any favors in terms of comparison. So, yeah, I don't know. But having almost like a chairlift sort of thing like that, if you don't know what the Roosevelt Island tramway is, you should look it up. It's in New York, and it is an aerial tramway. It is one of the few aerial tramways that I've seen in commuter service, or even heard of in commuter service like that. And it is really cool. And, I mean, honestly, I'm sure a lot of people just use it for the cool factor, but it does help you get to places that you really wouldn't necessarily be able to get to otherwise, at least with the ease that it drops you there. Unfortunately, it has virtually no connections on the west end there, and the east end is just on an island, which you can get on and off of using the subway as well, or various roads, but it's the kind of thing where actually, wait a minute. Is there a road off of Roosevelt Island? I don't actually know. That's a really interesting question. I don't actually know if there's a road off of Roosevelt Island. I mean, I know there's the road bridge. How do they get cars onto Roosevelt Island? I'm about to have to look this up. I'm going to use like the last 5 minutes of the episode to look up a map or something so that I can solve this for myself, because now I need to know, and it can't wait, because I want you guys to know too. Although many of you may have already looked it up because you're not, you're on the ball. So I think, let's see, what have I got here? I can continue with this area here. Oh no, I kind of can't, because that doesn't have the right grass yet. Well, let's see, we do have another 5 minutes of the show, and I do need to clear off stuff. I can't just continue putting trees down willy-nilly when I need to start clearing stuff off. Which, I mean, there's more room that we need to... Ah, crap. There's more room that we need to, that we need to fill in with stuff. But we need to clear all this stuff off first. We need to just get all the trees off the railroad. We need to get all the trees off the river. We need to get all the trees off the roads, if there are any in the area, which I'm not sure if we covered up any roads today. But this is, we just did a lot, an honest to God ton of trees over the railroad right-of-way and the river. So, generally when we do so many trees, we're covering a relatively small portion of railroad and then the huge other areas. Whereas right now we have done, we've definitely done the huge other areas, but we haven't, we've also covered an absolute butt ton of railroad mileage. So, I need to get this stuff out of the way. And Madison is here. Hello.
Hi.
This is a little bit of a different form factor for me. I didn't say, oh, here's my one life thing for this episode, aside from the transit meeting. My headset broke. My Turtle Beach Exo 7 headset that I've had for, I think, 5 years now. One of the earmuffs just snapped. It was a very Jader thing to have happen. But I have already ordered a replacement. Unfortunately, not another set of Turtle Beaches. I don't really care about brand loyalty here. I know, again, to go back, Jader is the only person that's had like a significantly positive or negative experience with Turtle Beaches, and it was very much negative because they kept breaking. And thus, he's led me to reconsider Turtle Beaches, despite the fact that mine lasted for quite a long while, and they are generally a fairly well-regarded name in the headset industry. So, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here as to whether Turtle Beach is trash or not. But definitely based on that, maybe they could look at their quality control, or maybe they just really need to get better at headsets that fit over afros, because that was back when Jader had significantly more hair. It was kind of disappointing when I finally got to meet him in person and he did not have an afro. He just sort of, he had like the beginnings of one, but not like, a few inches of hair. No. My room, Gilad had one of those. Patented New Jersey Jufro, which he actually showed up in. He actually showed up in a live stream not too long ago. I was like, why are you here? I wasn't, I was pleased. Yeah, he showed up in the comments of one of my live streams. He was just there. And I'm not sure why he was there. I assume he got, well, no, I didn't really get the chance. I probably said something to that effect during the live stream, actually. I didn't, go after him. Hey, why'd you come into my live stream? What are you doing? I was, appreciative of the minor viewership, but I think he just said hello and then popped out, because he's never really been in the habit of watching me play games. So if he suddenly decided to pick up that habit, that would just kind of be interesting and a little strange. But, he was a nice guy, so I'm, certainly don't not want him in the chat. Anyway, uncovering this river. This is the bayou before I get rid of these trees. I just want to, I've got a minute left. I just want to clear off as much as I can and say, hey, this is pretty good. Which, I've got to move a lot of these trees back now. All the ones that are right up on the river's edge. If I didn't have so many, to get rid of, I would be moving them all in this stage instead of deleting, because, maybe, if I have to go and, if I have to go and put in more trees after this, then that's just inviting disaster. So, every time I place down a single tree, I feel like it's not just copy-pasting, it's all trees. Every time I place down a tree, I'm opening the door to a crash. And I haven't had one since, I'm saying this now, I'm going to crash just to watch. I haven't had one since last episode, and I have been stressing out Tane quite a bit, running simulations and stuff like that, but that doesn't mean one isn't on the horizon. That doesn't mean I'm in the clear. I didn't see one of the ghost trees or home... I want that back. Ghost trees or gigantic home tree looking trees that generally indicate you're about to have a bad day, but I did see something similar. So, yeah, I think I'm in for trouble. But it just hasn't happened yet. I'm in for very delayed trouble. Oh man, I wish there was just like a delete tree brush. You remember the advertisements for like the tree brush that was supposed to exist in this version of Trains, or in like the last version of Trains? That was I think that was like the random terrain generator tool they were showing off, but honestly, that isn't good. It isn't. Maybe if there were more tweaks to it, maybe somebody's found a use for it, but by and large, it's not a good tool. It's cool, and I've seen people use it in route competitions to get a lot of area done fairly quickly. It's not the worst thing in the world. But there are many better things, including doing it yourself, or hiring a 4-year-old to do it, or...
Wendy's.
Sure, that doesn't really help you build routes, but...
It does when you're hungry.
Alright, I'm going to move those. See, I'm moving trees now, so now I'm getting way too into it. And that area is undone so far. I'm just, I need to get everything off of the right-of-way. I need to get everything off the embankments. I need to get everything out of the way of these power lines, which I totally forgot about. Or telegraph wires, I guess there really are. And then I can call it a day. I mean, I can call it a day now. It's quitting time already. But I'm just stretching this one out a little bit because I'm finally working. After all this time. This might be the... Oh. I totally forgot about the cutoff. I totally forgot about it. Yeah, that's what we want. The brand new stretch of rail line is going to be completely covered in trees when it opens. The first train through will have a giant saw blade on the front of it. How would you build around the trees? We didn't. That up there. So, I probably will need to cut back a lot on the trees in these areas still, but this is a start. It looks a little bit too green right now. We'll get to patching that up. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you next week. This is the Admiral. Where's my Audacity? Signing off.